Hi guys, thanks for tuning into another episode of Nuggets News. Well, another massive week. We've got record highs for Ethereum, so much going on in the macro world. I really think we're setting up for the next super cycle leg higher. So I'm going to dive into all that for you. I do just want to give a quick mention to a few of the recent upgrades we've got on Collective Shift. So we've now got a news feed that you can scroll through. You can customize that. We've got more features coming, so you can select only the content and things that you're interested in. A bit of a sneak peek here. So we have kind of modeled off that Facebook scroll that everyone has come accustomed to. We are trying to build the Google of crypto. So all the content we've ever created is now in that big database with keywords and tags. So you can go back and look through posts about any particular coin or topic throughout history. And just remember that Knowledge Center, that's all free for your friends and family that are going down the rabbit hole. All the beginner stuff is free. A big shout out to everyone that gets around the bad dad jokes on Twitter. So I did take over 9 years to get to 50,000 and then only a few months to get to the next 50. So, hey, Tassie's favorite son, Ricky Ponting there. I know that Twitter can be a toxic place, but honestly, if you align yourself with the right people, it can be also a place to get a lot of alpha from. So I would recommend you get one if you haven't. Now, during the week, I had one of those times when you just get that gut feeling that Bitcoin's about to explode, and on this occasion, it was right. But for those that are asking about technical analysis specifically, look, I've got a little bit of content and resources that I've shared in our knowledge center and in our premium resources about the styles and the indicators that I like to use. But I would recommend our friends over at Market Mastery. So most of you know and love Kyle and Ramon by now. So it's always good to see some homegrown talent that have done their own courses. As well as the chart guys as well. We really trust those people. All our partners on our website, you get discounts for. Members, head over to Collective Shift and you'll get a bigger discount for most of our partners as well. But even if you don't trade daily, I think that technical analysis is a good skill to have under your belt just to understand. And when you can mix it with fundamentals and all that sentiment and on-chain data we talk about, that is, my recipe for success. That's what we really try to teach in Collective Shift in the group. I wanted to mention the Anzacs. So 106 years ago, I wanted to throw this in here particularly because of how entitled people are becoming in the crypto space. A lot of people now are making more money in, a month, a week, a day, sometimes in one click than people work their entire lives for. And yet people are, constantly complaining, never happy, this, that, and the other. So some of you are in for a rude shock when we have our first downturn. Those of you that have been through a whole market cycle, I'm sure the market's taught you some humility by now. But just remember, we're very lucky in the grand scheme of everything compared to a lot of those that came before us. Okay, so into the local news. Justin Wolfers is the latest economist to call out Australia as no longer the land of a fair go. So one thing that I've been talking about is that Australia are going to have no choice but to copycat everything that's happened in America. And because they've spoken out against that so much, they're having to do more and more backflips. So now they're moving the goalposts just as America did. They're talking about having unemployment in the 4%. And this allows them to say, hey, we need to spend more. Government, you need to spend more. This is the new goalpost. And in America, they actually got to 4%, and then they moved the goalpost again. So it's the endless excuse to keep printing money. High-rise office vacancies have actually started to recover a little bit in Australia. Let's keep an eye on that, particularly with Martin. We'll see if that's a one-off or a trend that continues, but I just don't see us ever recovering to the same point of people living and working in the CBDs, at least full-time capacity. Australia's wealth fund swells to record 180 billion. Now, if you think about our population, per capita, this is actually a lot of money, a big nest egg that should be spent locally, I believe, and injected into infrastructure projects and looking to build our future. Instead, you think about where that money goes. So much of it is in Australia, which ends up in real estate trusts and things like that, which we love. And then our index, like we just discussed in the documentary, it's just the big banks, a couple of miners, Telstra. There's nothing really new and innovative in there. And overseas, most funds have got exposure to the big indexes. And what are the indexes? They're majority made up of Facebook, Google, Amazon, Netflix. So all this money that we're being forced to put in, I don't mind that idea of saving a little bit for retirement. Probably one of the only countries that has an inkling of encouraging saving left these days with monetary policy. But ultimately, a lot of this is going into those shares, and then all the Facebook shareholders and all the Facebook execs and CEOs, they get more money, they get more bonuses. So who is this benefiting all for down the line in 40 years time, when who knows, it might not even be there. The government might have had to dip into this retirement, or anything can happen, and it's just another function that benefits the wealthy immediately. And hopefully by now you're starting to see more and more of this. ASX, 7 months in a row green. What did I say? If we take monetary policy to zero and we start printing money, housing's going to go up, ASX is going to go up. Doesn't mean the businesses are in the best shape ever or making more money than ever. It is only a result of money printing. Nothing else matters anymore. Calls to phase out fossil fuel subsidies. Speculation about net zero emissions target. Australia's still just reactive, not doing anything proactive compared to others. Victoria has one of the worst electric vehicle policies in the world. The guys over at Juice Media did a cool podcast about this during the week. And even if you hate climate change or any of that stuff, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be encouraging people to use better technologies, less wasteful, renewable, sustainable, rather than things that do have an impact. So that's all I'm going to say on that one. Canberra tears up Victoria's China deals. So these are the Belt and Road initiatives with China. This is another one that the political parties love bashing each other about at the moment. Look, that relationship with China still not going well. China barely drinking any wine after those tariffs, 200%. We spoke about how fragile we are and our exposure to China in the documentary at length, and it's all coming to pass now. So China now accusing Australia of coercion as the ties deteriorate. Japan and India, we're looking elsewhere at these other sort of partnerships and trade deals we can do to try and counter China. Look, some good things coming of that, but nothing is going to replace that powerhouse of China that's the number one economy by most measures these days. Their economy is booming compared to a lot of other places. So it's kind of like the worst time that we could be, damaging that relationship. Shipping delays and supply shortages constrain firms all year. So all the flow-on effects of everything that we're seeing and reading about, it's, well over a year now, and it looks like another year out into the future, at least, that this stuff is going to affect everything. And I honestly believe we are going to start to see pretty big inflation, and central banks aren't understanding all aspects of what they're doing at the moment. So Germany could be heading into another lockdown. We are super lucky. Like, even in Tasmania, we haven't had a lockdown compared to most places. Look, on the mainland Australia, there's still a few little spot fires where they're having to go into lockdowns, but plenty of other countries you're in, these full lockdowns over a year later. It really sucks. And as I've said, I think there's clearly enough evidence out there now to know that we don't have to be in full lockdown. There are measures we can take to have some sort of level of openness in the economy and keep things going. Putin's bid to ditch the dollar picks up as exports move to the euro. So this is the first time in history where Russia are now doing less than 50% of trade with US dollars. Pretty decent chunk, 13-40% with the ruble. The euro is growing. A very interesting dynamic here. It's a little bit like Australia and China, and then we have the US. Europe are kind of in the middle, where they've really got to lean on Russia for natural gas in particular. And Russia is an absolute powerhouse. That book on the shelf behind me, The Cold War, Maricus is actually coming out with his new book soon. I'm going to have him on the channel to talk about that, because it's one thing that's not spoken enough is Russia and Putin are sitting on all the aces. They've got they control the bottleneck of nuclear power. A lot of people don't understand. They've got natural gas. They've got oil reserves. Masses of land, resources. So, hey, this is going to be an interesting dynamic going forward between those big powerhouses that don't like each other. The EU will allow vaccinated Americans to visit this summer, and I know this is going to make some of your blood boil. This is what we were kind of fearful of, that you're not allowed to travel, you're not allowed to do this, that, or the other unless you've had the jab, and I don't believe that's right. Copper surges towards a record high, hitting Chinese industry. So, hey, China actually do produce things, so it is hurting them. Good for Australia that exports stuff like this. Biden is pleading for unity with all these, Chinese threats and everything going on. At least he's trying rather than provoking, I guess. Great tweet here by Raul, and he's really showing that inflation that's coming through. And I don't want to talk about crypto too much because you just cannot deny the performance of Bitcoin and Ethereum this year. But this is kind of what central banks want. And careful what you wish for. We keep saying it. Bonds is the only thing that is down there. And that's because interest rates are starting to creep up and inflation is all around us. And so people are saying, why would I be sitting in these bonds that have negative yield when the price of everything is going up? I need to put my money in the things that are going up. And that creates that vicious cycle where things go up more. So the price of stuff that makes everything is surging. The input costs, as I said, we've got other issues here like semiconductors. We just can't keep up with demand. And semiconductors aren't just in phones and computers. These days they're in cars and just about everything. Your fridge is a smart device these days, your TV. So who controls the majority of the actual production of this? They're the countries that are going to benefit. And think about places like Australia that have lost manufacturing. All of a sudden, what do we do if we can't get hold of some of these inputs? Or the ones that we can, they've tripled, quadrupled in price, lumber and that kind of thing. And that's when you start to see that big inflation, and Australia becomes more on that scale towards these countries that have suffered from hyperinflation over the years, that because of this situation exactly, and they try to get out of it by printing more money, and it just creates that vicious cycle. So grains and corn, 8-year highs. US companies are bumping up prices on this supply squeeze and demand boom. At the same time, they're printing all this money and people are going out and spending. This is what central banks want, but can they get that genie back in the bottle if they do get inflation in the real economy for the first time ever, because their policies are starting there rather than starting in the bank reserves QE style. Biden unveils this massive family aid plan funded by the rich. So he's really trying to tax the super, super wealthy, the top, I think it's like 0.3%, and targeting the middle class and lower class. Again, that money directly in the economy, that equals inflation. White House pushing for 80% clean US power grid by 2030. A lot of people probably wouldn't know that America, I think, has around 30%, maybe 50% of its power from nuclear. And where do they get all that uranium from? It's Russia. It's their enemies that they get, I think it's 90% from. So again, Putin can choose to cut that in a really, to-fro situation. Free money stimulus, blowout consumer income and spending on goods. It's all glorious. So this is the WTF chart of the year. So trillions of dollars, seasonally adjusted, personal income from all sources. Yes, just when we're in the tail end of a recession, the money handouts have absolutely overridden any other personal income growth. And so if you're going to take that away, that's a pretty sharp downturn to be facing. So these people that are getting the stimulus checks, it's all well and good. That's why we're seeing the cost of all these things go up. The question is, well, what happens now? So GDP grew. If you actually look under the hood a little bit, once again, it's the top percent that are benefiting. But we've also seen a massive chunk of GDP basically from that government spending. And I think it's something crazy, like 30% now of all jobs in America are from government spending rather than, the private sector, and 68% of GDP is consumer spending dependent. And so, you take those stimmies away, a lot of that's going to die. US real GDP by sector, as I just mentioned there, that consumer spending in grey, massive, massive boost, and government spending in light blue, doesn't even register. You can't even see it here on these others, and that's really growing. So the Fed have upgraded their view of economy. So this, I love this. Every time they come out and speak, the economy's getting better, but they're trying to say that we're not going to do anything for longer. We're going to keep rates near zero even longer, even though everything's getting better and inflation's picking up. The US have sold more debt at 0% for the first time since the pandemic, and we actually did see some of those notes trade negative. So negative interest rates have crept back into the US. We already see it around Europe, and here we go. I tweeted this morning about how it always starts off and, you're exaggerating. It's only accounts with $1 million, but here we are. It's down to $16,000, and in a few months' time, the next step is everyone. Everyone will have negative interest rates on their bank, on their savings. You're being punished for saving money. Fed's Kaplan warns of imbalances and wants to start talking about tapering. Anytime you mention a word like this, the algorithms go crazy. They hate it. The stocks hate it, and markets don't like it either. But US dollar index did spike higher on a lot of these because other currencies, like we said, they're going further negative. They've got more monetary policy, printing and whatnot, whereas Kaplan comes out and says we might think about tapering, and bang, the US dollar all of a sudden looks a bit stronger. These are the effective yields relative to the US Treasury 10-year bond. Here you can see the constant to maturity rate here, so the baseline is at record lows as well. These just haven't even had a chance to recover before it looks like we're turning down again. Wall Street margin debt surges to record high. We know that this is a result of the Fed, again, indirectly forcing speculation. So what do people do when they're in this situation? For most companies, the best thing they can do is buy back their own shares. And yes, we're on record pace to have the highest amount of share buybacks ever. A lot of these insiders have already sold all their shares now. They're kind of sitting pretty. 1 in 4 shares of the TLT, so this is the bond ETF, are now short. So everyone is now shorting the bond market because remember, short bonds go down. Everyone's betting that interest rates are going to keep going up. The junk bond investors should embrace the Reddit mentality. So this is an article basically saying that nothing even matters anymore. Junk debt is the cheapest it's ever been, even though some of these companies are in the worst shape that they've ever been. But don't worry about it. Just buy it because someone else will pay more than you. It's almost a Ponzi scheme. And with all these rates, the real rates aren't as bad as they used to be. So this is kind of a tough situation for gold at the moment. And if interest rates and inflation really starts to creep up, it's going to depend about what the real interest rate is. But people can get higher returns elsewhere. That is a difficult environment for gold, which doesn't offer any yield. So ETF investors have dumped 17 billion of gold, the most in 8 years. I don't think it's all over for gold at all. I think ultimately all this money printing and monetary policy is going to result in far higher prices when trillions of dollars makes a run for the exits. But silver actually has that industrial component. And so just like all those commodities we covered, silver can really benefit from all this with the two-pronged approach. So it's already up, 30% this year, but a long way to go. It's one of those few things that's not anywhere near its record highs. You guys know how much I love silver. I've done tutorials on how to get exposure to it through tokens or ETFs if you want to trade them. Or I'd encourage everyone to start off with physical, the real thing. Our partners, our recommended is over at Ainsley for you Aussies. All right, we are into the crypto news. So once again, just a reminder, guys, if you are starting and watching just the crypto section, head over to the platform, check out the new features, the new feed. We've also got the beginners questions because so many of you now are new and we want to have more dedicated areas. So we've got the beginners course, but a whole dedicated area now to get those beginner questions answered. But remember, you can search anything and we have a tutorial or a piece of content that will cover it. Aussie law firm. So this is Piper Alderman. G'day to Mike if you're watching. A friend of ours, probably the guru crypto lawyer in Oz. They're using blockchain-based payment guarantees. So a lot of these companies get paid in Bitcoin, you might have heard of. Australia is adopting the whole blockchain thing a lot at the moment. University of Wyoming to generate revenue from crypto. This is massive, looking at proof of stake, but think about all those people that are looking for passive income. We just mentioned rates at 0 or negative. All of a sudden, people are going to go, oh, Ethereum. Okay, yeah, I've heard of that. Oh, you can get 10% by staking it. Let's run a node in our technology department, or the big tech companies. So I think that's going to be a big driver of thousands of more nodes and stakers all buying 32 ETH at the corporate level, at the university level. So I think it's going to really integrate, just like the internet. Demand for PayPal's crypto offering exceeds all expectations, says the CEO. They've also got this partnership now with Coinbase. I love looking up the retail trends of who's buying through Itbit to really get a gauge of that retail sentiment in America, at least. We've got MasterCard exploring applications that can build on top of central bank digital currencies. Visa's gone all in with the stable coins as well. Gemini also partnered with MasterCard. They're looking to launch this crypto rewards app. JP Morgan and DBS launching blockchain cross-border payments platform. So this was what I always said would happen. The banks would launch their own blockchains. They would use their own technologies and distributed ledgers, whatever you want to call it, to do cross-border payments, and they're not going to be adopting some other system. UBS and State Street Bank, $30 million raise for institutional crypto builder. So this is currency. This is one of those STO platforms that went a little bit quiet, and now it's coming back into the fray. Tether's market cap hits 50 billion. Adoption grows. USDC's been in the news a lot, but Tether, they've actually come out and they've got their fully backed assurances and audits. Apparently, this is what people have been waiting for. So, hey, stablecoins, I think we're past 100 billion now, or getting close to. And my goal is $1 trillion of stablecoins by the end of, I think even maybe by this year, but at least at the end of next year. And we're going to really start to compete with Forex. Ethiopian Education Minister confirms this Cardano partnership. So plenty of Cardano fans. The one thing I will say is that I do think that Cardano is still, a year behind a lot of other projects. If you look at things like, just dApps, and not expected to launch this project, for example, until next year. Whereas Binance Smart Chain, Polkadot, they're already starting to gain users and a lot of addresses and this, that, and the other. So Cardano, I've got a lot going on. I'm even helping and advising some Cardano projects now, but they do have to really push the pace. Colombia's crypto soars. So this is the usage through local Bitcoins. Regulators are stepping in. We've seen a similar thing in Turkey. A lot of the CEOs of these exchanges have all of a sudden come under fire, coincidentally, when Turkey are going through this major currency crisis. But anyway, that's the importance of decentralized cryptocurrencies. Binance are launching their NFT marketplace. So this is going to be stiff competition because they do have the users and the marketing power, but not everything that Binance have done has always been a success. So maybe it will leave room for others to still have their place. Warriors are the first pro team to launch their own NFT over in the US. This is just part of that cultural revolution. Sonic the Hedgehog creator is launching their own NFTs. Asian video game publisher Nexon, they bought $100 million of Bitcoin, 2% of their total cash reserves. What I did wanted to point out here was too often I think we focus on, Tesla's done 1.5 billion. Who's the next big one? But it's all those currencies around the world that one by one, they've got a stronger case to flip to Bitcoin than people that have US dollars. There's a lot of worse currencies out there, trillions of dollars waiting to go into Bitcoin. So Ellen actually had an NFT auction. I didn't even hear about this, but I'm not surprised it was a bit of a flop. Kanye sneakers, it's just going mainstream. It's crazy. This is bringing in a new wave of people. Nightlife comes to the metaverse as Decentral Games opens their Atari casino. So another retro favorite there for you gamers. Grayscale and Valkyrie have beat Grayscale for once with their Polkadot trust. So what have we always spoken about? The large cap coins are going to have these funds, investment products for money to flow into. Look, Germany have cracked down on Binance within a week or two of them launching these tokens that track the price of equities. So I'm not sure if they're doing it I think they must be in a slightly different way to FTX. But Binance may be in the firing line. They love to walk the line and play with fire with regulators. Brazil's first crypto ETF. So this has got a mixture of currencies. This is the third most traded ETF on the day that it launched. And as the guy says here, this is just unheard of for a new ETF to be anywhere near the top. Just shows you the huge demand and the money that's going to pour into Bitcoin in the US on that day one that we get that Bitcoin ETF. Korea looking to approve more investment funds. Andreessen Horowitz could be launching $1 billion crypto fund. We've got Notional raising $10 million to grow DeFi lending protocol with real-world adoption. So we're starting to see more and more of these real-world assets get tokenized into the world of DeFi. This is a cool little Aussie project, Bumper. They're doing gamified options, so puts and calls, protection, price plan protections, but I'll let you guys check that one out when it's out. The AWS of blockchain. So this is Alchemy raising 80 million. This is different to Alchemex, guys, but look at all this money that's being thrown around at the moment. This is Red Fox Labs virtual space that got revealed. So they are actually using Unreal Engine to render in full high definition real time. So this is very different to something like Decentraland. Cover have launched their version 2. These are not just insurance, cover to expand real world assets and other things as well in the crypto space. Nexus Mutual allows DeFi activity to come to Polkadot, Cosmos, and Binance Smart Chain. So it's great to see this expanding. Like I said, if you want to be the insurer of Polkadot, the projects that capture that land first that are already on Ethereum, these are ones that are going to keep growing and booming. So you don't want to let someone else outcompete you on a other chain. Polygon launches a $100 million fund to help DeFi adoption. These guys have been on fire. Matic that have rebranded to Polygon. And this was one at the start of the year that I spoke about a lot. I was very bullish on, and it's been one of the top performers. Beijing government is mining Filecoin, so they obviously know about my bullish Web3 D-Web narrative, and they're getting involved there. M-Stable is another one that's moved to Polygon. Ethereum and Tezos are now connected via a bridge. Tezos, a little bit of a ghost chain. They need to get their act together as well. Solana sets a new all-time high while the rest of the market stagnates. Solana, another really good competitor for Layer 1. The Serum token becomes the latest project to turn heads. We cover this a lot for you guys, these projects that were launched on FTX. Some of you got an airdrop that's done really well now with that price appreciation. This is the write-up that I did at the start of the year about these kind of the bullish scaling narrative that I had. So most of you know these other narratives, but it was going to be things like XDAI, Mesigo, Matic, Raiden, things that are scaling, Loopring. These have been top performers this year. The projects that are integrating the scaling themselves, Synthetics, Uniswap, Aave, they've all been monsters. And then complementary chains, Polkadot, Solana. And this was from back in January. And guys, this is probably, as I said, the post that's made the people the most gains this year. This is the messages that I'm getting back for those people saying, thanks, I've got over the line to become a millionaire after all those years in crypto winter. But these, getting ahead of these big news, trends, and narratives, that's what Collective Shift is all about. MetaMask surpasses 5 million monthly active users. These are starting to be some really big numbers. Ethereum on a high after a European investment bank launches 120 million of bonds. We've got more and more of these use cases. An Ethereum ETP in Germany and Switzerland now. The SEC did delay that Van Eck ETF decision until June. But the good news is, as I think I reported last week, that I'd heard around the traps that Australia is going to be launching a Bitcoin ETF in the next few weeks even. But actually a few crypto ETFs as well. So very cool stuff. I hope we do get those. That would really put the pressure on the US. During the week, I got to go to the biggest mining facility in the Southern Hemisphere, and I was surprised to learn that it was in Tassie, not too far from my house. So really cool stuff. These are custom miners sitting in this cooling gel, 4th biggest in the world. That's really cool to have on the home step. Bitcoin transfers from miners to exchanges hit 6.5 month low. The selling is really being exhausted. The whales are now accumulating again. Those addresses are going up. This is everything heading in the right direction that we want to see. We got the news that we are going to start to see the taproot upgrade. So the miners now have, I can't remember what it is, 1,000 or so blocks, 2,000 blocks to signal their intent to say, hey, I'm happy to do this upgrade. It's a soft fork. It's not a hard fork. So there's no risk of a chain split. It's just saying, are you happy to include this software update as part of the new set of rules? And this will introduce a little bit of scaling, but more so this is a privacy upgrade that I've been waiting for years. Now, Bitcoin does move slowly. This is going to be the first upgrade in 4 years. Ethereum, some people use it every week. Every week there's bugs and hacks and upgrades. Bitcoin basically never changes, but as Ryan says here, both are fulfilling their purpose perfectly. So forget that one is better than the other stuff. Last couple of bits of on-chain data that we love. I just spoke about this, but the MVT Golden Cross remains low. So this is comparing on-chain activity compared to price. And at one stage we did get a little bit of a discrepancy, but it's now heading in the right direction again. I'm starting to get a lot more bullish than I was even in the 30s and 40s when I was cautious because we'd gone parabolic. I thought too fast, and I just wanted to see us have a little bit of a pause. But now I think the time is right. The backdrop, the global narrative, the news, alts have had their run. People are a little bit distracted by too many shitcoins, I believe. And that's when Bitcoin tends to have its monster run. So, hey, as I kind of joked, there's no dip in adoption. We are witnessing the uptake of crypto as a store of value asset. It's no longer, I think, a speculation that people are looking to, dump as soon as they've done a 10x. Even when Bitcoin goes to 100K, a lot of people are only going to sell a little bit. They're not planning on selling everything, and I don't think you should ever sell all your Bitcoin or all your, good quality cryptocurrencies. So we're only here, we're just about to start in terms of the percent of global population. 60 Minutes report last night, 26% of Aussies have crypto. Now, I know that back in 2017, when I was talking to exchanges, some of them had 300, 400,000 registered users. So it seems like a really high number, but it might not be too far off the truth, which is crazy to think about. Number of transactions to exchanges overall. Let's see if Glassnode wants to load this for me. 7-day moving average. So this has started to drop back down. Really good news. People that wanted to sell have sold. The miners have sold what they need to. Whales have taken some profits and reaccumulated. The stars are aligning for that next move higher, I think. So if we have a quick look at Bitcoin, it's retraced to the 61.8 level. So this is what I'm watching now. We just need to get over there. And I think that we're every chance. We've only really got the 60,000 after that. And if we get through there, I think it's smooth sailing and pretty quickly. Even I've said 70K by the end of the week. ETH pumping again to new all-time highs as I'm talking. The ETH Bitcoin ratio has broken through that major high time frame structure that we spoke about for so long, and it's really got blue skies ahead now up until, look, even some of these levels aren't as big a resistance. We're really looking at up here at like 0.7 before we have major resistance. So that's fantastic to see. The US dollar index has bounced. So this is something we need to be mindful of, whether or not this can affect crypto. Or Bitcoin has broken that correlation, because gold has had another strong day today, even in this environment with the dollar up a little bit. So silver, $26, major point of interest there. If we can get above that, then silver, as soon as we get above that 26, 28, 30 level, it can quickly go to 50. Alts have been strong. Look, even shitcoins are up again. DeFi index, man, oh man, look at the gains on this. I spoke about how I expected XRP to be the strongest. And last week, man, oh man, if you got in anywhere down here, you are licking your lips. So well done. There is a time and a place to trade everything. Binance coin has been a monster. Polkadot's been a monster. Link, you can just go down this list, guys. Money's flooding into crypto. New people are messaging me. You guys know the story. I hope you're enjoying it all. Head over to Collective Shift. Become a member today if you haven't already. Otherwise, smash that like button, subscribe, share these videos around, and I'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.